Chris, how about a little bit about the entrepreneurial world at Jumpstart?
Jumpstart is a nationally recognized venture development organization. Now what does that mean? It's very simple. It's three things that Jumpstart is doing, and that follows a natural progression. Number one, we're coaching and providing management services to people, entrepreneurs with ideas that are disruptive and they can change the game. They also need to have the desire and the potential to grow rapidly into a significant company of about 50 million within the next 5 to 7 years. And of course, that will lead to growth, will lead to spur additional growth, and will lead to job creation. Then as a second step, and that makes us unique here, we are also doing private equity investments in those companies, in selected companies. We're talking to many companies over the course of the year, but only make selected investments in companies that we believe those are the cream of the crop, they can grow the fastest. And none of the other organizations here makes an equity investment, so that sets us apart. And our equity investment comes in the early stage of a company where friends and family ran out of money, your own money is at the end, and you need somebody else, but banks and venture capitalists are not ready to step in yet. And then as we're making this investment, our next step is to help those companies to grow as fast as they can and present themselves to the next step of investors, typically angel investors, venture capital, and maybe some bank. So those are the three steps. And why I am optimistic about this, it's very simple. We know the model works. We started 5 years ago, and I don't think anybody ever expected that the model will work as well as it does. We still have ideas. We actually have more ideas coming in today than we had a year ago. The number of applications grew in the last quarter 25% over the previous year. And that is a sign the ideas are out there, the entrepreneurs are out there. We have the entrepreneurs. We have the people who are coming forward and saying, help me. Help me to grow in a large corporation. And we also know from the Kaufman Foundation study that was just recently released that over the last 5 years, the net growth of jobs in the United States came only from companies that were younger than 5 years old. Those are the companies we're looking for. Those are the companies we're pushing because they will be creating the jobs. Second is the investment. We're continuing to make investments. We're not slowing down in our investment activity. We are investing in these companies, and we continue to help them. We aim to slow down a little bit if the money doesn't come in, or maybe those companies can't find follow-on investors, but we will never let a good company go down. We'll just continue to help them until we find somebody who steps in, because sooner or later somebody else has to do that. So we'll be investing about $4 million this year. And the third one is we're still finding a significant amount of follow-on funding, people who come in after us from inside Northeast Ohio and from the outside. Overall, follow-on investment in companies that have been sponsored by Jumpstart, that Jumpstart made an equity investment in, has been over $100 million, and that's in 5 years. And don't forget, the first 2 years really don't count because these companies need to grow up first. And just in the last few months, our investment, the outside investment activity has really accelerated. We have $7.6 million invested in companies that are currently in the Jumpstart portfolio, and we are negotiating a closing of over $10 million for the next 60 days with companies that are in the portfolio and then mature and get outside into the venture capital community. So that's enough reason for optimism. And I really want to ask you all to help out here, because Jumpstart every year, together with BioEnterprise and NorTech, puts together the annual report on the capital investment activity in the Northeast Ohio region. And that report is extremely important because that's being read by investors all over the country and abroad. We have shown really well over the last years, and it seems like our data show that we're still doing really well this year. But we could be doing even more, even better, if every investor and every company that received investment tells Jumpstart or BioEnterprise about these investments. We are sure we're missing some of them. So if you know of any investment in a company, if you received any investment in a company, don't forget to go to Jumpstart and let them know about this investment in 2008. So enough reason to be optimistic. Things are really looking up.
Thank you, Chris. And finally, last but not least, Tom Zenty, representing BioEnterprise. And the bio cluster is one that we've worked on for quite a while, and I'm sure that Tom has some optimism about where it's headed from here.
Thank you, Dorothy. You know, as you listen to each of the speakers today, I think that there's a common theme here, and the common theme is centered around entrepreneurialism and the entrepreneurial spirit. If you have a chance, I would encourage you to go to the BioEnterprise website. There's a lot of interesting information about the origin and the history of the company, which is new. It just started in the beginning of this century. And what we do is we help client companies with business positioning, connect management, clinical, and commercial partners, and provide introductions to capital sources. It's by many measures a creation and an acceleration company, but by some measures as well a matchmaker. We recruit larger biomedical companies to establish and expand operations here in Northeast Ohio. One of the examples of that would be a company called Affymetrix, which is a California company that bought a company here in Lawrenceville Heights, and they plan to move about 30 of their bioscience people now here to Northeast Ohio. So why be optimistic about our region, especially as it relates to BioEnterprise? Well, there are a number of reasons. First, it tends to center around results. If you look at the outcome of what BioE has been able to do, since the company was started, there's been over $800 million in invested capital by client companies, which is by far, I think, one of the largest ways for us to reinvest in our community. Secondly, over 85 companies have been started, recruited, or accelerated. Thirdly, client companies are developing biomedical innovations and actively involved in tech transfer so that we're able to take things from the bench to the bedside, back to the bench, and really do a lot in the area of creation of new technologies that are going to be applicable to patient care. Two examples come to mind. One is a company called Synapse, which is a company that was started by Dr. Ray Anders. And it's a neurostimulation company where what he does is he's able to do diaphragmatic pacing, allowing people to come off of ventilators and lead a relatively active and somewhat normal life compared to where they were. It's a wonderful company. And the second would be Arteriocyte, which is an adult stem cell company that's focused on adult stem cell therapies to grow vessels and restore muscle strength in damaged areas after heart attacks. Several companies have also been successfully grown and sold, which I think is an important measure of success as well, and transition to new ownership, but nonetheless have remained here. And healthcare is now among our leading industries in Northeast Ohio. As you know, we account for now probably about 18% of the GDP in the entire country, and probably a slightly larger percentage of that here in Northeast Ohio. Likewise, Baiju Shaw is sitting in the back with his table of BioEnterprise leadership, and quite frankly, they've done an extraordinary job as a relatively small team of professionals. They brought positive national and international exposure to Northeast Ohio. Baiju was actively engaged in inter-country activities to attract and retain companies to come here to Northeast Ohio. We've developed biomedical districts here in our region, such as Midtown and Cleveland, as well as incubators such as the Bioinnovation Institute in Akron. We've attracted a group of committed professionals who want to make a difference for our region. The idea is to continually bring in new professionals in order to get companies started and then, of course, regenerate their growth and replace them and continually attract new and bright people to our community. And he's supported by a broad-based board. It wasn't more than, I think, 2 years ago, Baiju, when we decided that we were going to actually make our board a national board. And we brought in a number of people in the funding world and the venture capital world who come in from California and Boston, who now sit on our board and bring expertise that we had thought about and at some level have, but it's a lot different when you bring in VC firms to serve on the board. Partner organizations, you know, we hear a lot in our economy about can't the healthcare organizations in Northeast Ohio get together and have an opportunity to work together. Well, this is a classic case where that is indeed true. As I say in virtually every forum where I have an opportunity to speak, we live in one of the finest healthcare cities, not only in our state and in the region and nationally, but internationally. And I think that this is a classic case where UH, CCF, SUMA, and others have come together not only to fund, but to also help to lead this organization. And this is a classic collaborative effort in ways that you may not have been familiar with. And I think it's a testimony to our willingness to come together and work to make a difference. So those are the reasons why I'm optimistic about Northeast Ohio, specifically about BioEnterprise. And we'd be happy to take questions, I guess, Dorothy, as our next step.
Thank you, Tom. So we've asked the panel one question about their optimism. In a few minutes, you will all get an opportunity to ask the panelists questions. And before we do that, though, we've got some announcements from the City Club. Lee.